Hello, everyone. This is Barb Techel. This is take two. I had recorded the monthly animal guide reading for you, and yeah, I did it on my new computer, which I'm having problems. Blah blah blah. Still not working right, and so my lips did not match my face to my words, and I can't have that for you. So here we are. So I've already pulled the cards for the month of June. So I'm not going to do those on camera, but I did try in the first take. So yeah, welcome. This is for the reading for the month of June, the energies to play with in the month of June. And you know, when I do these animal oracle guide readings for you each month, it's not a prediction. I really look at the cards as a theme of something for us to be aware of in our life. And especially if we're feeling challenged by something, pulling cards is a great way to get a shift in perspective and just to help bring some insight that maybe just we can't get for some reason, that we can't get clarity. So this is just something to be aware of and to maybe tune into. And when I do these readings, really take what resonates for you. What doesn't resonate, just leave it at the door. No big deal. Though I will say, as I've said before in my readings, is sometimes that one thing that you think doesn't resonate, but you feel like this little like nudge inside, or it's not necessarily a nudge. It's like, well, like you feel this resistance to it. Oftentimes, that is something you really want to pay attention to. So just kind of feel into that, as I do the reading and see if anything comes up for you. So this is a general reading. Again, I want you to be able to apply it to your life and see how it fits in. Maybe there isn't a challenge right now, but as you're going through the month of June, maybe a challenge comes up and you think, aha, part of that reading that Barb did, this part of that message is really speaking to me. And then how can you work with that? So for the month, I'm going to pull for the theme. I pulled a card. Going back to my first video, I pulled a card from my deck, Animal Reflections Healing Oracle. And then I felt called to pull an inner child card, which is from, I pulled from the inner, let me slow down, Healing the Inner Child Oracle. And then I also felt called, this is a newer deck that I just got called Wisdom of the Shadow. I'm going to pull a shadow card as well. So the theme for the month comes from Llama and Healer. And, when we think about Llama, at least when I think about Llama, I just think what strong spirit they have, what strong ownership of who they are. They really stand in who they are. They don't let anybody mess around with them. If they do, they are going to let you know, right? So when we think about the word healer, we really all have the capacity to heal those things we need to heal within ourselves. For so long as a society, we thought we had to go outside of ourselves to heal something within ourselves. But it has been my experience, it's been, the experience of many people I know, that the only way to true healing is going inward, and going inward to reflect on what am I feeling in here, and not bypassing what you're feeling, even though, and I've walked this journey many a times, it can feel very uncomfortable. But it's being with that uncomfortableness and looking at where it's coming from and acknowledging it and then allowing it to pass. So I just think, Llama with Healer is really calling us to take a stand for ourselves and devote ourselves to feeling and being the best that we possibly can be. So a part of the guidebook that really stood out to me as I pulled Llama and Healer that I reflected on is this part of the guidebook. So often we default to a guru or other external influence for the answer because this is what we've been conditioned to believe. But Llama assures you that you, me, you are your best healer. While that may feel vulnerable, and it does, it can feel very vulnerable at times, and the responsibility of it may feel overwhelming for the time being, Lama is here, enticing you to come to the edge and trust you have all the answers needed within to feel complete and whole. Lama, known for its ability to sustain its oxygen levels even at high altitudes, reminds you of the importance of focusing on your breath through difficult times and encourages you to remember you've got this. And that brings me to a great exercise to do when you are feeling really anxious, if there's something, a really deep challenge that you're working on. And I have turned to this all the time. I turn to this every day, actually. Breath work is really important to me. But something you can do when you're feeling anxious, and it really does work, is to take a breath in, inhale for a count of 4, and then hold gently, gently hold for a count of 2 to 3, whatever feels comfortable. And then it's really on the exhale, doing that very slowly and really dropping down into the bottom of the belly and going for a count of 6. If you can do it for 8, that's even better, but don't pressure or push yourself. Just do what feels comfortable for you. Just really feel into that. And do that a couple of times. If you can work up to 5, that is great. If you're still really feeling anxious, try for a round of 10. And it really does bring you back into a state of calm. And when we think about the theme of Lama and healer and being that own healer within ourselves, we have to first get grounded and centered. Others, we can't find clarity. There's no way we can heal what needs healing if we're in this, crazy loop of thinking and panic and concern and worry. We have to drop back into a place of calm and stillness. So for the inner child card, I pulled from the Healing the Inner Child Oracle, the card of boundary. And I think this is so perfect to go with healer because as we do our own healing work, people have really good intentions outside of us and they, think they have the best advice. And maybe it is good advice. I'm not saying it's not. But it's up to us to, if we are seeking advice from someone else, it's up to us to really feel in what resonates and what doesn't. And how I started out this reading by saying, if there's parts that don't resonate, just leave it. But when I look at boundaries, it's important to set up boundaries, especially when we're doing deep healing work. And it's making me recall now when I first started doing inner healing work. I had to be really careful who I shared this process with because some people thought they understood, but they didn't. Some people had really well meaning advice, but it wasn't helpful at all. And it actually kind of sent me backwards. So you have to really discern and feel into what is important, what you need and what you don't need. But again, we truly are our own healer if we can step into that. So boundaries are important. And when I look at this, the black and white symbol, it reminds me of the yin and yang symbol. Yin being the feminine, yang being the masculine. There is a time for being in the feminine flow, and especially when we're doing healing work, where yang can be more of forceful. What am I trying to find here? Forceful action. But I also think I'm getting this now too, that yang and yin actually go kind of nicely together because there can be action in actually going with the flow. I mean, we've been taught as a society that we actually have to be doing something in order to achieve what we want to achieve in our lives. But when we're talking about healing, in action is to actually be still, maybe meditate, do the breath work, that sort of organic feminine flow energy and working with that. Actually, you're getting a lot more in my take 2 reading than you did in the first because more is coming up for me. So I guess it was meant to be, right? So the third card I pulled from this newer deck that I got called Wisdom of the Shadow. I don't know if it's necessarily a new deck. It's new to me. Wisdom of the Shadow, Oracle for Self-Discovery, Soul Work, and Transformation. So, I know a lot of times people are afraid of that shadow work, but the shadow is really about bringing light to those challenging places within us and really thinking about and being with where does that come from? Where does that stem from? Why do I have this limited belief, or why is this coming up for me? And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. It's about bringing light to something that feels painful. And when we bring light to something, we can actually more easily release it and feel more whole and complete. And I love the image on the cover of this guidebook because you can see the dark shadow, but when we're willing to go within to find that light that is within each one of us, and we all have it, that is the shadow work. That is the shadow work. So the card that I pulled to go along with healer and then setting boundaries as we do our healing work is the card of panic. And I feel that this card came up because a lot of times when we begin to do healing work, it can feel very uncomfortable. It can feel scary. Oftentimes, again, it's coming from an inner child part of us that isn't feeling safe or secure. But as adults now, we have to assure that that small person within us, and I don't mean small in the word small, but that inner child within us that is still living in that state of fear or panic or being scared, and isn't quite sure what to do. But we've got this now as adults, and we can help that little inner part of us to feel safe and secure by being seen and being heard. Um, so, really, you know, what else do I want to say about panic? Yeah, calming that panic again is about going back to the breath. When we feel in that state of uncomfortableness, and that, we are living in a time where we're being called to be with those feelings that are coming up and to heal those things. And that can feel very vulnerable. It can feel uncomfortable. But that's the work. That's the work of doing the inner journey, is acknowledging those feelings and not pushing them down or shoving them to the back because they do feel uncomfortable. And more oftentimes than not, yes, some things take a little bit longer to heal. But a lot of times when we feel that panic coming up, if we can drop into the breath work, assure ourselves that we are safe. Think about yourself in that moment. I am safe in this moment. And more, 9 times out of 10, you are safe in that moment. 10 times out of 10, you are safe in that moment. Because we get so attached, and I raise my hand. I can get so attached to my feelings and think that I'm never going to get over these or through these or past these. And it's when I drop into my observer self and I see what's happening, I can calm myself as well. That to not be attached to my feelings as strongly as I can at times. I hope that's making sense. Oh, I turned right to panic. Wow, I opened it right to the page. It says, I meet sensations of panic with a grounded, gentle presence. I breathe in and take a deeper look. And since June is the theme is so much about healing. And when I read that sense, I breathe in and take a deeper look. It's just doing these steps as we can, as we feel comfortable. Maybe you only go so far one day, and then the next day, 2 weeks later, a month later, 6 months later, you're willing to go a little bit deeper and to acknowledge some things that need to be seen and heard. And that's all perfect timing. It's all perfect timing. Anything else? Says, what happens to the mind when the body begins to feel charged, static, heart racing, sick with angst, nervousness, or jumbled uncertainty in the gut? What happens to the body when the mind races, irrational thoughts pervade, fear arises, and overwhelm hits? One feeds the other. And that's true. You can feel that like in your body, you can feel that in your mind. It just is going like this, and I've definitely felt that. I felt that earlier this week, where it just wouldn't stop. It can be difficult to decipher the root. It can turn into a self-perpetuating spiral, amplifying the very panic itself. It can be frightening to feel an inability to breathe or think with the fullest coherence. While we can't control every situation, we can learn to repattern how we meet panic and stress when they arise. In times of high stress, angst, or panic, how does your body feel viscerally in response? In times where your heart races or you feel uneasy for no apparent reason, does the mind swoop in and create more stress? The mind can be so powerful, right? It can create more anxiety than is needed, than is necessary. Consider ways to pause, breathe, ground, and self-soothe when the body and mind are at odds. So yeah, healer for the month of June, setting those boundaries, feeling through the panic, doing the breath work, getting yourself regrounded in order to find more clarity and to heal what needs to heal within you. So I hope that's helpful for the month of June. This may not come up for you for the month of June, but if there's a situation where you're starting to feel challenged, perhaps this reading will pop back into your mind and you'll think about these cards and you'll be able to incorporate them into whatever situation or challenge that you are facing at the time or at the moment. I also wanted to just take a minute to let you know I am now on Substack. I've been there for a while and I was kind of testing the waters to see how it felt. And I finally have made this decision. I moved my blog and my newsletter, which was two separate subscriptions, and I combined it all into one into Substack. And that is my cozy kind of new home. I still have my website, and I invite you to always check that out too. But Substack is where I will share updates with my readings. I will share reflections. And in fact, I finally landed on a name for my Substack, which is Reflections from Joyful Pause Cottage. So if you feel like joining me there, I'd love to have you there and join in the community there, and stay in touch there as well as, yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I have to say for the month of June. I hope you have a great June. And if you need any further support, know that I'm always here with my intuitive guide readings, and I'd be happy to support you if you need further support. All right, everyone, have a great month of June, and I will see you again in July, my birthday month. All right, see you then. Bye bye.